Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session. I could not be happier to have the amazing Kenda McDonald here with me today. Hi, Kenda.
Hello. Thank you for having me here.
It's not by design, but I'm so happy that it worked out that I have this wonderful lady here for International Women's Day. So happy International Women's Day, Kenda, and everyone else.
Happy International Women's Day to all the ladies that are watching as well.
So today we've got a brilliant session plan. If you've been part of Cambridge social media community for a while, then you've probably seen Kenda as a guest speaker before. And, we're excited to have her back because she's always delivering such a brilliant value. And this session is kind of taking all what we've already covered from customer behavior and understanding our customers a little better and laying the grounds of email marketing to little deeper. It will be a strategic session, so not looking specifically on some of the tactics and nitty-gritty things, but obviously if you have any questions, you can ask. We'll be looking really, how do you make email marketing work for you? So without any further ado, Kenda, the stage is yours. I will be in the background monitoring the chat, collecting the questions, and when you are done, we will have a look and answer all the questions. So here we go.
Excellent. All right, guys, we have got a lot to cover. Now, if you see me speak before, you know I go fast, but today we're going to go even faster than usual. So we're covering email 2.0, and as the amazing Lenka has just said, this is building on some of the things that we've already discussed previously. So we're going a little bit more in depth. So very quickly, for those of you who have not met me before, I'm Kenda McDonald. I am the CEO and founder of a behavioral marketing automation agency called Automation Ninjas, and we specialize in all things email marketing around your customer journey and automating your customer journey. And I'm also the author of the best-selling book called Hack the Buyer Brain, which is all about how we evolve to survive, not to buy stuff online, and the implications of how the brain works and the implications of that on your marketing effectively. So I spend most of my days helping businesses understand customer journeys when it comes to marketing automation and bringing that behavior in to create stuff that looks a little bit like this. That's really what we're going to take a look at today, is like the strategy behind your email marketing and how you really level up your email marketing. So we've got quite a lot to cover. We are going to take a look at what most people have in place when it comes to marketing automation and how we utilize things like funnels and why that really doesn't work. We're also going to take a look at what gets a return on investment and profits from your email marketing. We'll also go into the exact campaigns. I'm going to take you through the customer journey in depth to show you what you need to have in place. I'll very briefly cover how to bring psychology in. But really, it's going to be how to cater your content towards that. And the one exercise that you can do that will really help you bring that psychology in. And then we'll take a look at some next steps. I do have a downloadable worksheet for everybody around that. So let's get off with some swearing. Let's get started. So yes, funnels. Funnels are generally the thing that everybody tries to put in place with their email marketing. This is the thing that everybody tends to focus on. And quite frankly, it's probably because funnels are really quite sexy. They're one of those things where like everyone gets really excited. You can do a funnel. And it sounds like a really cool thing. And the main premise behind a funnel is quite simple. It is a tool for taking people, collecting them from all over the internet, putting them through a structured process with your emails. And then the idea is that as you put them through the structured process, like money just comes out of the bottom, right? That's supposed to be the idea. You take people through this process and you work to converting them within an email series. And all a funnel is, for those of you who have not encountered them before, a funnel is supposed to be some way that you get someone to opt in, you take them through an email series and they convert. That is the premise behind a funnel. Get someone to sign up for something, send them some emails, get them to buy something. Now, there is a problem with funnels. And the problem with funnels is that one funnel is great. But in order to really run a business when it comes to marketing automation, you have to have lots of funnels. So you start creating another funnel and you get another idea and you create a new lead magnet, you create a new email sign up, you do a video series, you do a talk maybe, and you do all these things and you start creating all of these different funnels. And, that's basically what you have to do. And as you start creating different funnels, the idea is that you'll have lots of different places and your funnels will convert at different rates and you'll have lots of people coming out of different places, right? That is the main premise behind funnels. The problem with this is that what you actually end up with having is lots of people in different places. And this is what happens with marketing automation. You have lots of different funnels. People go through these different funnels and these email series and these email campaigns, and you just end up having lots of people in different places. But if you're an astute marketer, what you will start to do is you'll start to actually connect all of these funnels together. And you'll go, okay, well, this funnel, once they go through this funnel, they need to go here and they need to go here and they need to go here. And you start connecting all of your funnels together and suddenly it just becomes total chaos. And this is the problem with marketing automation. And this is the thing that not only makes me sad when I'm taking a look at marketing automation, but it makes everybody else sad who has to deal with marketing automation because it gets complicated. You suddenly have conflicting campaigns. You add someone into a campaign and it triggers off 10 other campaigns. And it becomes a mess to manage and it becomes extremely difficult to actually go through the whole process. So this is why I have a problem with funnels, because funnels take a look at marketing automation the wrong way. They take a look at marketing automation from a piecemeal function that you just have this one campaign that you're going to put people through, and that's not really how it works. So the way that we keep this process simple and we try and make it streamlined and sophisticated is really to make it cycle. That's what you want to do with your marketing automation. So this is what we always say to people. This is what the book is based around that I've written. And it's what we do with all of our clients. And it's a world-class framework that has won us awards, right? So the idea is your customer journey is a combination of 3 factors. You understand behavior. You put it through the lifecycle marketing framework to structure that behavior. You understand what content your audience needs, and you keep the cycle turning. And the idea is when you understand behavior and you understand your consumer, you're making the process human friendly. And it makes the whole process work because you understand what your audience needs. Whereas something like lifecycle marketing becomes, the backbone of your process. It keeps the whole process really strategic and structured. And then utilizing that content, that's the lifeblood of what you're doing. It holds everything together and it gives the whole process substance. And it's these 3 factors being put together that give you your customer journey. And funnels don't have any of that. And that's my bugbear with funnels, is very often they're not very strategic. They're a tactic, they're not the strategy. So what we want to do is we want to focus on creating this. And what will then happen is, yes, you can utilize your funnels and your email campaigns, but they're all part of a wider process. They're all pulling together in a cyclic motion. So you don't have a lot of different separate systems. So the idea becomes that your funnels work together within a system to get you those profits that you're wanting to get from your email marketing. So let's take a look at how you can actually make that work rather than just a theory. Let's put it into some proper solid stuff. So this is the foundations of a customer journey. This is the framework that over the last nearly 10 years that I've been working in marketing automation that we utilize and we help businesses understand. This is the customer journey, and every successful business that is using marketing automation will have a version of this inside their own company. Okay, it's the process that you need to take people through in order to get them to opt in, to get them to convert, to get them to engage, and get them to come back as customers in a repeat way. And this just has a little bit of behavioral element added onto it. So I'm going to take you through this process step by step. But what you need to know is that there are 10 parts to any customer journey framework, okay? The first part is that a good customer journey is always going to have a really strong backbone of content. So you'll have a behavioral driven content plan. So you understand what content your audience needs. You will then be driving people to some form of lead magnet and opt-in that they can sign up for. You'll then be giving them a follow-up sequence from that lead magnet. And we'll be utilizing something that we call short-term nurture campaigns, which I'll take you through in a moment to explain in depth. You'll have a welcome campaign in place. You will have sales campaigns, or if you're in B2B, you might have a sales pipeline. You'll have onboarding campaigns in place. You'll have some customer lifetime value actions, things that get you upsells, cross-sells, and downsells. You'll have all of that information as well. And then you'll also have things like the long-term nurture that you'll have in place. You'll have newsletters. You'll have engagement, segmentation, and progressive profiling. You'll have all this good stuff, right? So these are the 10 components that a strong customer journey needs. Now, I don't want to freak everyone out, because if you're just getting started with email marketing, you don't have to have all of those in place, okay? So I'm going to show you if you're beginning, what you need to get started with, if you're intermediate, what you should be looking at doing, and when you're advanced, what you can be adding onto it. So we've got a little section that we'll cover on that in a moment. But if you're going to succeed with your email, you should be working towards having this kind of framework in place. Okay, so I'm going to show you what good email marketing looks like with an example, real life example of a real life customer of ours. So this is New Zealand Natural Clothing. They are absolutely amazing. I love them. And we've done lots of stuff with them. We've been working with them for quite some time now. We put lead magnets in place. We have landing pages that we drive people to. We have a newsletter in place. We have a series of RFM campaigns because they're e-commerce. So it's recency, frequency, and monetary value campaigns that we have in place. And we have the full customer journey. So literally everything that you saw on that previous slide, we have covered for these guys. We have that behavioral content plan, and we do trigger campaigns based on people's behaviors, or how they interact with stuff. But that's really the basis for all of this, is that we're giving people really consistent communication, right? The whole time we are consistently communicating with them, and we're all pulling in the same direction. We have that cyclic motion going through with the campaigns, rather than just having lots of funnels that come out at different areas. And so what we've done is by really focusing on consistent value add, we've increased their conversion rates by around 231% since we first started working with them. They have a 126% higher average order value. We've increased new leads and their customer lifetime value. They have increased engagement across all of their email marketing. They have decreased opt-outs. So they're doing pretty well, right? But I want to exemplify what that actually looks like. So right in the beginning of 2018, when we first started doing some stuff, they ran a Mother's Day campaign, and they did all right. They did around 29 orders. It was pretty standard for them, made around $4,000. But then in 2019, we started putting some of the building blocks in place for all of this. And they had around 42 orders. So that's about an increase of around 40%, 38.5%. Most businesses very chuffed with that. They were very chuffed with that. But we knew we could do a little bit better, right? So we really focused in the next year on building a relationship, adding value to the audience, consistently showing up when they needed us and where they needed us. And what we managed to do is we managed to eventually increase their sales by 358%. Okay, so that is massive for a small business. It's been absolutely phenomenal for them. They are doing their sort of $1 million months now, which is really exciting to see. And this is a 3-year process of building that customer journey and focusing on consistent value add. So this can really turn businesses around in a pretty phenomenal way. So that's what you're looking forward to when you really nail it. So let's show you what all those component parts look like. Okay, so this is the customer journey. On the left-hand side, in that sort of orangey block, we have all of the kind of, I wonder if you can see my mouse. Can you see my mouse? Yes. You have all of the content-based stuff, then you have your lead magnets, and you're kind of flowing people through, and you're adding value to people. Then you're going to sell to people, and if they purchase, happy days. Then you're going to give them a nice welcome. You might fulfill your product, and it's also your opportunity to do your upsells, cross-sells, and downsells. And then everybody goes into the long-term nurture after that, where you give that consistent value add. And if people don't convert, this little line here as well, that is also where you would, for instance, be sending everybody else. Everyone goes into long-term nurture, right? If they don't convert, and if they do convert, they go into long-term nurture because we want to engage those people. And as you start getting more advanced, depending on how they're engaging with stuff, you might want to drop them back down into the sales process, or you'd create a little bit of progressive profiling, learn a little bit more about your audience. You might drop them into short-term nurture campaigns, which is basically doing the value add and warming them up for sales again. That is the premise of the full customer journey. But let's take a look at each of those component parts. Because the first thing is your behavior and data-driven content plan. Okay, this is the fundamental thing that you guys have to get right. If you have a way of engaging your audience, driving traffic, understanding what they care about and the information that they want to see, your marketing automation is only going to succeed if you are driving people into the process. So getting clear on this front end, understanding what content do people want to consume, what do they care about, what's important, what's relevant, means that you can get attention. whether that is by posting stuff on social media, creating really engaging posts, whether it is by having a phenomenal blog that drives tons of traffic, whether it's by having a YouTube channel or a podcast where you are creating amazing content. Whatever the case is, you need to have a content plan where you are really clear that this is the information my audience cares about, and this is how I'm going to provide it so I can drive people into the system. That is really important. If you don't have people coming into your marketing automation, it cannot work. Okay, so that is absolutely foundational. So that's one part. The second part is lead magnets, because we need a way to actually get people into the system. So a lead magnet is just something that you are going to give to people in exchange for their contact information, and you're going to get them to opt in for that specific thing. Okay, so this could be anything from an ebook to a buyer's guide to a checklist. It could be signing up for your newsletter. Whatever the case is, you are giving people something in exchange for their contact information and permission to communicate to you. Okay, so that is really, really important, because we've got to take that lovely content that we've been driving people to. We have to actually get them to sign up for your emails. And this is the gateway. So lead magnets are really important to get right. It's also really important to know that you don't just have one lead magnet. You should have multiple lead magnets. Okay, you should have several lead magnets all across the spectrum. And I'm going to talk to you in a little bit about awareness and how to identify your awareness stages, because they will tell you what lead magnets people need. But you should have multiple lead magnets on your site, on your blog posts, pretty much everywhere you can get them. Don't just focus on one. Having several is really important. After that, when someone signs up for a lead magnet, we have to follow up, right? So we need to give them a lovely email series that basically gives them a little bit more value add and gets them thinking about their lead magnet. The difficult part of lead magnets is not getting someone to sign up for the lead magnet. It's actually getting people to consume them. So when people sign up for an amazing piece of content that you've created to help them with a specific challenge that they have, what happens, especially if it's an ebook, they're going to download it, leave it on their desktop and never look at it. So you've got to drive people to consume that content, and you've got to drive them to actually be sort of going through that, to educate them, to push them a little bit further, and to build that relationship and to build that value add. So if you have been on any of the previous talks that we've done, you'll know that the most important thing that you can do from a psychology standpoint throughout any of your marketing automation and your marketing is to increase the amount of value activation or reward activation that your consumers' brains get in relation to your brand. And by having good lead magnets and having fantastic follow-up, you will start to do that. So that's really important, that when someone signs up for a lead magnet, they get an email series. So we always suggest that your email series should be sort of anywhere between 3 and 5 emails after they have signed up for a lead magnet. And you should talk about all of the things, the main topics in your lead magnet. So talk about the main things, the main core concepts that people can take away, and give a little bit of extra value add about how they can solve that specific challenge for what they've signed up for. Showcase your expertise a little bit before you even think about sales. Okay, so you are doing a little bit extra, and you're ensuring that they're consuming that lead magnet by kind of going over those points. So it then means that even if they don't open the damn ebook that you've given them or whatever they've signed up for, you're actually then adding that extra value through those emails, and you're showcasing that expertise. You're not asking them to buy something straight away. You're literally just covering that information. So you're thinking about, in those follow-up emails, 3 to 5 emails where you're going over the concepts of what you've already covered and sort of interacting with them and encouraging some engagement, asking questions, and sort of having a good chat via email with them effectively. Now, that's really important to have in place, but we also call these campaigns short-term nurture campaigns, because you are nurturing someone on the short term, okay? They're really, really important, because if you get to the advanced part of marketing automation, what you might want to do is, depending on someone's behavior, so as they are interacting with different pieces of content, as they're interacting with different topics and segments of your audience, you might want to trigger their behavior into these campaigns. and you might want to give them a lead magnet when they reach a certain point, and we call those short-term nurture campaigns. And the idea is that you're triggering people into these campaigns behaviorally, and then you're getting them to sign up for something or interact with your content. That can be a fantastic way of increasing your conversion rates. Mike Brown, one of our clients, has a 25% conversion rate from his behaviorally triggered campaigns that we have set up. So he has a long-term nurture that goes out. We track engagements. And then as people engage with certain things, we have a threshold that it surpasses. So when they've engaged with a certain piece of content 3 times, we will trigger them into a short-term nurture campaign, which then sells them something appropriate after a little bit of nurture. 25% conversion rate on all of those campaigns. So, he's pretty chuffed with that. We're pretty chuffed with that. So it can be really, really important to nail those nurture campaigns. It's really important to have that really strong foundation. And so whenever you have a lead magnet, they must go straight into a nurture series. Okay. Now, before we even talk about sales, let's talk about your welcome campaigns. Okay, so when someone is brand new to your database, they probably don't know you from a piece of cheese, or they don't know you from Adam, right? They don't know who you are. They don't know why you're important. They don't know anything about what you do and why you do it. So your job at that point in time is to teach them that. Now, at the rest of the time, you're not going to be talking about yourself and your nurture series and all of the other information that you're giving them, the lead magnets. It's all about them. It's got nothing to do with you. So this is your opportunity. The first time someone ever signs up, while they're going through that phenomenal nurture series, it's your opportunity to, introduce yourself. Tell people a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do for a living. Now, welcome campaigns are really important to set the scene, because they're your opportunity to tell people why you care about what you do, what makes you different from your competition, the different products and services that you have available and how you help people, but also, just all the things that you care about. And so we generally suggest that your welcome campaigns around 3 emails, and it should go in tandem with your nurture series. So I generally get a lot of questions about how you manage that time differential. But the idea is that when someone goes into a welcome campaign, when someone signs up for something, your welcome campaign and your nurture campaign run in parallel together. Okay, and you stagger the emails. On day 1, when someone has signed up, you deliver their lead magnet and you also welcome them. So they're going to get 2 emails on day 1. That is okay. You're only doing that once. And people expect that the first time they sign up for something, they might get a couple of emails. And what we generally tend to suggest is maybe like 45 minutes to an hour after they've signed up for something, you have that second email that welcomes them. And you're making it really clear. You're like, welcome, we're so excited to see you here. They know that it's a first time only thing. And then you stagger your emails. So after that point in time, they're not going to get more than 1 email. And we generally say for your nurture emails, you're going to go about 3 emails between each, 3 days between each email. And for a welcome campaign, you might be going 4 or 5 days between each email, so they don't overlap. Okay, so that's how we tend to do that. But your welcome campaign, really important to set the scene, tell them how frequently you're going to be emailing them, what they can expect to hear from you, showcase some of your amazing content and some of the freebies that they might be interested in, differentiate yourself from your competition, and tell them how you can help them and kind of set the scene. So a good 3 emails is enough for a really good welcome campaign. Okay, so you got your welcome campaign, and you got your nurture series, you got your lead magnets, you got your cool content. What about the sales? Okay, so this is where the sell comes in place. Now, it's really, really important that you only sell to people at appropriate points in their awareness journey. I'm going to showcase the awareness journey. We're going to go through those steps in a little moment. But when it is appropriate to sell, you want to have some cool sales campaigns. You want to have some good stuff that goes to people. And there tends to be 2 kind of attitudes to sales campaigns. In one corner, you've always got like your Wolf of Wall Street. You're like, you sell, sell, sell. Everyone's really excited about selling. You have that in the one corner. And then you have in the other corner, people like me who are cautious about selling. We don't enjoy doing it, and we're only going to do it when it's important to our audience. Now, really, I think the comfortable middle ground is literally in between those 2, right? It's taking those 2 concepts and combining them. You should be selling, and you should feel proud of selling where it's appropriate, because you have a good product and you have a good service to offer. So we suggest that people create a really good series of sales emails that go at appropriate times. And so you're not just sending 1 email that has a call to action in it. You're sending 3 emails as a minimum to people. And we have a specific series that we suggest that people send out called the GLR series. It's a Gain, Logic, and Respect series. So your first email, you're focusing all about the emotional stuff, what you're standing to gain from buying this product, why this product is so amazing, how it's related to their specific product, their specific problem. Because even when you're doing a sales email, you've got to remember that it's still all about them, right? That's the thing that they care about, is them. So you're not talking about how great you are, you're talking about how this product is going to solve specific problems for them. So you're going over all the emotional benefits that this product is going to have. And you're going to have some nice call to actions in there. In your second email, that's your logic email. That is where you are going. This product is a logical purchase for you because of blah, 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 or service, right? Because this works for B2B as well. We have our own sales emails that work fantastically. So you have your logic related things. That's all the features of your product, right? This is all the logical reasons why this is really good. And then your final email is your respect email. And that is where you are respectfully talking to them about the fact that if they don't solve this problem now, it's only going to get worse. Okay, so you are basically taking them through a structured process where you're kind of building on your emails all the time. And a GLR series works fantastically. Where appropriate, you can also have some cart abandonment emails. So if someone clicks on a link in an email and then goes through to have a look at the sales page but doesn't purchase, you can trigger some extra emails at the end of that sequence because you know those people are more interested than other people. So the extra 2 emails in a cart abandonment sequence can work really well. So you're looking at anywhere between 3 and 5 emails for a sales series. Obviously, if it's a service and the sales process is a lot longer, especially if you're in B2B, you're probably going to be looking at a sales pipeline rather than a sales campaign. So sales campaign is always going to be something that's a little bit shorter, perfect for B2C and some B2B. But then if you've got like a much longer sales cycle, so we're talking like 6 months, 8 months plus, you're going to want to have some kind of sales pipeline in process in place to manage the process and make sure that you're taking people through the relevant steps. So it's really important to have that in place, to have something in place that you can cover with that. And you don't have to get too complicated with them. But after that, if someone purchases, it's really, really important at that point to onboard them. And this is something that I hardly ever see happen, is a customer welcome campaign. So you should be welcoming your customers on board. It doesn't matter whether or not you're B2B and they've purchased a small product, or whether you're B2C and they've purchased a small product, or whether you're B2B and they've purchased a massive thing. That doesn't matter. Okay, the thing that matters is that they have bought something from you and you should be loving them because of that. So an onboarding series, you're generally looking at, again, 2 to 3 emails where you thank them for purchasing that thing and you deliver the thing, right? As a very minimum, you should have a thank you email in place. This could be manually triggered if you are, selling services like we do. When people buy our MAD service, our MAD product, our big project that we do that's like 6 months long, we have a series of emails that gets triggered. And people in B2B always feel really funny about doing an onboarding series, but they're really important because in that onboarding series, I'm telling them what information I need. I'm setting the tone for what it's like to have a good, positive working relationship with us. You can expect this from us, but we expect this from you. You need to give us this information so we can get the process kicked off. Meet the team, meet everybody. Here's everybody that you can expect to see, and so on and so forth. And you take them through a nice structured process that teaches them how to interact with you, what they can expect, and so on and so forth. And the great thing is if you're doing a B2C related thing as well, and it's just like a little product that they can use, you can focus that series on teaching them how to use their product in the best way possible, which is always exciting. So onboarding is really important. It helps us avoid something called post-purchase apathy. And that is when someone buys something and then they kind of feel a little bit of buyer's remorse because the hype was more, was kind of really high. And then they actually have the product and they're a bit like, we want to avoid that because that can be totally detrimental to us getting profits in the long term from that customer or that client, because they probably won't come back and purchase something again. So we want to make sure that they feel amazing after they've purchased, and a really good customer welcome or onboarding series is the way to do that. Okay, so you've loved your customers, you've treated them really well. Now is the time for maybe doing some customer lifetime value related activities. So you might have some upsells, some cross sells, or some downsells that you can go through and you can take them through. So for instance, let's say someone's bought a camera from you. Do you have tripods that they might want to buy? Do you have additional lenses that they might want to buy? There's always something else that can enhance their experience. If someone has bought a service from you, is there something else that they can buy from you that would go hand in hand? So for instance, when people work with us, we can just do the marketing automation or the consultancy, but we also have a content writing team in-house. Do you want us to write all the content for you for your journey? Well, that's an additional fee. That's an upsell for us, and so on and so forth. And you can take people through that process. Really important for getting your profits. Don't just, sort of sell one thing to somebody and then stop, because that is, most businesses will get most of their profits after that, especially if you're running advertising or if you're putting a lot of time and energy into creating content. That's a cost. Then effectively you're going to want to make sure that you're optimizing for that customer lifetime value. And all customer lifetime value is it's how long you have a customer for and how much they spend with you over that time, minus all of your costs of getting them. So every time they purchase, their customer lifetime value will go up, and that's more profitable for you as a company, which means that your return on investment from your marketing is higher. So we want to make sure that we have those upsells, cross-sells, and downsells in place. So upsells are pretty straightforward. They are upselling on top of a service that they already have. Cross-sells, again, are pretty straightforward. It might be that someone has purchased a product over here, but if they have this product over here, it can kind of help. So for instance, if someone has bought a pair of running trainers from you, a cross-sell might be selling them a water bottle. It's not directly related to exactly what they're doing. You're not selling them shiny laces on those trainers, which would be an upsell. You're selling them something that would help along with that process, but is slightly different. That's a cross-sell, right? And then you have downsells. If somebody doesn't buy the thing that you wanted them to buy, but you kind of want to bump things a little bit, you can offer them the next step down. So let's say you offer someone a VIP package after they've taken something, but they don't take it. You can then say, but okay, you didn't want the VIP package, but would you like this? This might help. So a downsell is maybe a way to just claw a little bit extra back from that interaction with that consumer. Okie dokie. So you've done that. You're doing great. Everything's going fantastic. You have some people converting and some people aren't converting. So what do you do next? Well, here's the really important part. This is the long-term nurture. Now, consistently with all of our clients, this is the thing that makes the most difference. This is the thing that increases customer lifetime value in the long run. And I'm talking seriously long run here, like keeping people coming back and purchasing like 5+ years afterwards, and keeping them really loyal customers and advocates. It's also the thing that increases general engagement. It's the thing that increases email deliverability. It's the thing that means that you can segment and understand your audience a little bit better. And what I always find is all of this stuff down at the bottom here, all of this stuff, most businesses are comfortable with doing this, but hardly anybody does a long-term nurture. And all a long-term nurture is, as it says on the tin, you are nurturing people for a long time, right? Like totally genius name, right? So what you're doing is you are adding value to people over a long period of time. To give you a little bit of context, our long-term nurture for our business is at the blog that we send out every week. We write a weekly blog post, and we are definitely writing that blog post to bring people into the website, but we know that our entire audience likes all of that content as well. So we send that content out to our audience on a weekly basis. And that allows us to keep in contact with people. People reply back to those emails. We can see what people are interested in. We can see, what topics people like more than other topics, so we can provide more of the same kind of content. And we're keeping people engaged for the long run, which stops people from opting out when we do our sales related stuff, and just keeps people around because it's continual value add. Now, your long-term nurture differs from your short-term nurture, okay? So this stuff down at the bottom, this nurture and value add, remember that's only like maybe 3 to 5 emails. That's it. And then it's over. Whereas your long-term nurture is going every week or every 2 weeks. It's going out consistently all of the time forever. And it is the fundamental thing that you can do to your marketing automation that will completely change everything for you. It is by consistently doing the value add that we really turned New Zealand Natural Clothing's marketing automation around. It's by consistently doing the value add that we can get things like 25% conversion rates for Mike Brown, because we're triggering people behaviorally. Okay, and that brings us on to the next thing. Oh, so sorry. Before we stop on the long-term nurture, some ideas for your long-term nurture might be something like a newsletter, okay? So a newsletter generally goes out on a monthly basis. And I would suggest that if you have a monthly newsletter and you don't have a weekly email that goes alongside it, that you maybe consider making your newsletter every 2 weeks instead of every month, because that gives you double the engagement opportunities and means that, you know, you're going to increase your email deliverability in the long run. So I would suggest that you send slightly more frequently. So newsletter can be a way to do a long-term nurture. But if you're creating other types of content, so if you are blogging and you are doing things like a podcast or a video series, or you're just making really good posts on social, send that to people as well in an email. You know, send that to people on a consistent basis to make sure that you're getting that engagement, and ask for engagement back. Ask people how they're doing. Try and start a casual conversation from your emails. It's really good for your email deliverability, but also it's good for engagement. And this is the one thing that you can do that will increase the reward activation that the brain gets in response to your brand. It's content marketing, but via email. So don't waste any of that additional content that you're creating. If you're creating new content, send it out via email as well. Distribute it to your database. Okie dokie. So that brings us on to the next bit, because if you're doing a long-term nurture, what you can do is, this is for the advanced people, right? So you're wanting to get advanced. You can have some progressive profiling, engagement and segmentation in place. And so what you're doing is you're taking a look at what people are engaging with in the long-term nurture, and you're tracking that. And so if you see people engage in consistent things, so someone is always engaging in topic A, well, chances are they're really interested in topic A, and you might have a product that relates to topic A that would help them solve that issue, so you can sell them that specific thing. And as we learn more about what people like and what they're interested in, we segment them. And as we continue to learn that, we call that progressive profiling, because you are progressively learning more about your audience and learning what things they are specifically interested in. So it's not just about learning about your audience as a whole, it's about that person. What is that one person interested in? And we do this within our own campaigns via link tracking. So we track the links that people click on, and depending on how many times they click on certain topics, we would then segment them into that topic interest group. So say, for instance, we have 3 different topics that we're really interested in tracking. We would track those individual topics. And when people reach a certain engagement threshold, for us, it's when they engage with 5 of the same type of material, we will put them in that box and say they're interested in that topic. And there's lots of different topics people can be interested in. And that means when we have a sale, we can maybe trigger those people in first, or we can have behavioral triggers, which is what Mike Brown has. As people engage with certain topics, they get triggered into certain sales campaigns. And that is a really, really fantastic way to learn more about your audience the entire time. Make sure you're sending the right types of content, but also to do behavioral selling. So to make sure that depending on their current engagement and what they're interested in right now, you are selling them the appropriate products. Right message, right person, right time. That is what you're doing with progressive profiling. So as you get more advanced, that's what you should be focusing on. Okay, so let's take a look at all of that and see what that looks like in real life. So this is the customer journey for the lovely New Zealand Natural Clothing. And what we have is we have his journey separated out between attract, engage, sell, and wow. Okay, so these are the 4 different parts of the, and we got sell as well, because we needed to split it out in a way that he could see and understand. So attract is all of the things that we're doing to bring people in. Engage is all of the stuff that we're doing that is value add based. Sell is all of the stuff that we're doing to sell, funnily enough. And wow is all of that stuff that we're doing to make sure that we're keeping his customers happy. And so you can see what happens is he has a number of related activities that bring people in. We then make sure that when people opt in for the first time, they go into the new lead welcome and conversion campaign. If they then purchase from that campaign, They will go into the new customer welcome and get second sale campaign, where we focus on doing that value add and that upsell to get them to purchase something else. If they purchase, happy days, but if they don't purchase, they get a cart abandonment series. And we also have, for all of his offline customers, because he has brick and mortar stores throughout New Zealand, we have offline customer welcome. We ask them in store if they want to be added into the series, and they generally do, and they go through. And then from there, we kind of track people's engagements, and depending on how recently they purchased, their frequency of purchase, or how much they purchased, we would send them different offers, right? So that's our segmentation criteria. But the entire time, he has some calendar sales campaigns that he sends out. So sales campaigns that go out at certain times of the year. But every 2 weeks, they receive a long-term nurture. Okay, so they receive blogs. It's actually every week at the moment now, because people were asking for them more frequently, which we like. They receive a nice long-term nurture, which then means that they're more ready for sales. They're more happy to receive sales material from them. So we have this fantastic cyclic nature for Phil stuff, because it doesn't matter where people go, they will come into the long-term nurture and they'll get kicked back into sales campaigns again, depending on how they engage with stuff. So that is how that could look in real life, right? That's an example of a real life campaign. And when you start getting down to that level, you can also start then doing your individual campaigns and start mapping those out as well. So for instance, this is a campaign where we're sending people to blog posts, getting them to engage for a lead magnet, and then we're cascading them onto some nurture, and then we might send them onto a sales series. And then we can expand that out even further, and you can get even more nerdy with it. But this is how we like to do our flowcharts for everything. So we can get down to that level of detail when we have an understanding of the entire journey, and we can see how things start interacting. Okay, so where do you get started with all of this? I know that it can be quite overwhelming. If you are right in the beginning of the process, the thing that you just need to focus on is getting your lead magnets in place, okay? Because there's no point driving traffic if you don't have anywhere to drive the traffic to. So you need some lead magnets, and just make sure that you're focusing on that nice follow-up as well. So when someone signs up, they have an email series to go into, and focus on getting your welcome campaign up and running, so that when someone comes in the first time round, you're welcoming them and putting out the welcome mat. And then also just focus on having a nice newsletter in place to do that like long-term nurture stuff, right? Okay. And if you can do that right from the get-go, lead magnet follow-up campaign, little welcome campaign, and making sure that you have a consistent communication strategy through your newsletter, you're going to do amazingly. That is the place to get started. You're getting started with marketing automation. That is fantastic. Okay. Don't worry too much about the sales related stuff. You can do that manually, or if you can't do that manually, then you need to think about putting some sales campaigns in place, but you need that as a starting point before you can even do your sales. So that is, if you're getting started, what you should be focusing on. If you are a little bit more intermediate and you have that stuff in place, you want to look at making that nice behavioral content plan so you can start driving traffic through. You want to get focused on having that long-term nurture, so that step above a newsletter or having more frequent newsletter. And you definitely want to start thinking about your sales campaigns and your sales pipelines if you're in B2B. Okay, so this is where, you're building a bit of an audience. Now let's start selling them something. And then because you're selling stuff, you have to have your onboarding in place as well to make sure that you're loving those customers. Okay, so that is for you if you're intermediate. That's what you're looking at. And if you're a little bit more advanced, and you have all of those things in place already, that's where you need to make sure you have your customer lifetime value strategies in place, your upsells, cross-sells, downsells. Also, this is where you should be looking at that engagement, segmentation, and progressive profiling, and making sure that you're learning more about your audience as they're interacting with stuff so that you can trigger those short-term nurture campaigns. That is what I would focus on if I was a little bit more advanced. Okay, so those are your beginner, intermediate, and more advanced stuff when you're looking at marketing automation. Don't have to eat it all at once. You can just do the things that you need to focus on as a business. Okay, let's talk about content now. How do you personalize all of this? Because this is where it gets complicated, right? It all looks fantastic when it's nice and neatly laid out in a flowchart, but how do you actually start to bring that personalization through to things? Well, personalization is all about the value add, right? It's just about adding the right amount of value to something throughout the process. However, you can't just go through and be like, I'm going to value add, because value is totally unique to somebody in the moment. So You have to add value unique to where they are in their own journey and their own understanding of the process. And that's where it starts to get a little bit difficult. Remember, and the better value that we can add, the better the brain activation, the higher that reward activation, and therefore the more likely they are to purchase stuff from you. So the right value is important, and you need to start bringing psychology in without it getting too complicated. And that is where we will introduce the awareness stages. This is how to understand where your audience is at and what is valuable to them at that specific moment in time. So people go through these stages of awareness. Eugene Schwartz originally created these, and we've adapted them a little bit more for behavior. And people will always start off unaware in the process. They will always they just have no realization that there's a problem. There's probably symptoms of a problem, but they don't know that there's actually an issue. Then something happens, there's a catalyst, and they suddenly become problem aware, and they realize, oh no, I have an issue, I have a challenge. And at this point, they will go off and they'll do a bunch of research about what their problem is, or they'll have a conversation with someone, and they'll realize, oh, I just zoomed in, I didn't mean to do that, I didn't even know I could do that. They'll realize that there is a problem and that there is potentially a solution. And when they start to realize that there's a solution for their problem out there, they become solution aware. And when they're solution aware, they're looking for different types of information. When they go through solution aware and they're looking at all the information on their different solutions out there, they will become product aware, where they will realize that there are specific products that they can buy that will help them solve their problem. And as they go through that stage and learn more about the different products, they will become most aware. Now, we're going to go through these in a little bit deeper detail in a moment, so don't worry. I will explain them clearer. But I wanted to give you an example. So our book does this effectively. Okay, so people who have a challenge or who are interested in biopsychology might read the book. And what the book does is it helps them understand what the issue is. It helps them understand what the solution to the issue is. And it helps them understand what options they have available out there to actually solve these various different problems. And if you can take people through each step, through each of these stages, you will get those magical words that everybody likes to hear. I know what my problem is. I know how to solve it. I just want you to solve it for me, right? So that is what we want to do by taking people through those awareness stages. But the different types of awareness stages, people need different types of content in those stages. And depending on where they are, we need to be adding value appropriately. Okay. And this is where awareness really helps us, because if we have lead magnets or we have opt-in series or anything out there, specific types of content out there that are catered to different awareness stages, it tells us where that consumer is because they're consuming that content. That means that they're in that stage. And it means that we know what to provide them with next without having to get really complicated and have lots of different funnels everywhere. We'll know what the different steps are that we can take people through. So what we want to do is we want to match our content to awareness. So let's take a deeper look at the awareness stages. So the first stage is where someone is totally unaware. They don't know that they have a problem, but they probably have symptoms of a problem. Okay, they've not sussed it out yet, though. They don't actually know what's going on. So their mindset in this stage is very much like, what are these weird symptoms that I have? And the thing that they need to achieve before they can move on to the next stage is they actually need to become problem aware. So what will they actually need to realize in order to have that problem aware stage? The problem with unaware is that because people don't know what their challenge is, they're not looking for help on anything. So this is not a good stage to be focusing on for the most part, because people aren't aware that there is an issue, so they're not really looking for help on it. But I see so many people create adverts for the stage where you try and create a Facebook ad that goes to like a mass audience. And you're like, okay, you're focusing on people who don't even know that there's a problem right now. So we don't really want to focus on those people because they've not sussed it yet. It can work in very specific instances, but in general, it's not a good place to start. Your better place to start is where people are problem aware. This is also your largest audience. It's the largest amount of people that you have available to you. So when someone is problem aware, something has happened. There has been a catalyst. What has happened for your audience specifically? And what does this mean for your audience? So their mindset in this stage is very much like, what is the shape of the problem? What is the width and breadth of this problem? How do I understand this challenge and what's going on in this challenge? If you can get them clear on that, that is what they are researching. They're interested to know that. And then in order for them to move out of problem aware, they must be able to say the statement, I know what my problem is, and I know that there are possibly maybe some solutions out there that can help me solve it. So they need to be really clear, this is a challenge for me. To give you guys an example of problem aware and becoming problem aware, I started running last year, and it was a really interesting experience for me because I didn't realize that the type of running that I do is actually called trail running, and that is where I run outside. I don't run on roads and stuff. I run in the forest. And you're going to encounter things like puddles and a lot of rain, a lot of darkness. You have to run with a head torch in the winter if you're running in the mornings. So I became problem aware by having wet and soggy feet a lot of the time. And so I went off and I was like looking for tips that would help me stay dry while I was running. I realized at that point that what I was doing was called trail running, and that I didn't have the right gear for what I was doing. I didn't even know that there were waterproof trainers out there. Okay. By doing the research, I was able to discover that. So I became problem aware by being wet and soggy while I was running the whole time. And then as I started to research this issue, I started to realize that there were different solutions available. So when I realized that there were waterproof trainers out there, that is when I became solution aware. And in solution aware, we start to become aware that there are different things out there that can help us, but we're not sure which options are right for us. So our mindset is very much what's out there. So when I was like, there's gear for this stuff, you can buy waterproof running tights and like waterproof trainers, there are such things. It was very exciting. And so I went out and I researched all of the different things that I could do. And the outcome for that is understanding what options are out there. And then you start to look for specifics. You're not just looking for waterproof trainers, you might be looking for a specific brand of waterproof trainers. And when you get to that point, you're becoming product aware. And so this is where people are clarifying things. They must make choices at this point. They're trying to figure out what applies best to them very, very specifically. So their mindset going into the stage is, I have these various different options, just what works best for me. So they're trying to clarify things, and they want to be able to say at the end of the stage, I understand which products work for me. Now I just need to choose. So I understood very quickly that I wanted waterproof trainers. I didn't want hiking shoes and that kind of stuff. I wanted actual bending, running trainers. And there are lots of different types of trainers. Like there are waterproof rock climbing trainers, and there are waterproof running trainers, and there are waterproof running trainers for running on like different types of surfaces. So I had to go through a lot of stuff to figure out which was the right option for me. And each and every stage, people are looking for these different types of information, and that is what you need to key into. What are they interested in? What does it mean for your audience specifically? And what types of information do you sort of get for them? Because once they're really clear on what is important to them, they start to become most aware. And this is where they're like, okay, I literally just need to choose the service I'm going to buy. They've narrowed things down and they're choosing between competitors. And this is where buyer's guides and that kind of stuff are really handy. So the mindset very much is what company suits me best, or what brand suits me best, or what trainers suit me best. Their outcome is, I'm ready to buy. I have objections and I need you to handle those objections, but we're well into the sales process at this point. They're going to reach out to sales. So what you need to do with all of this is you need to be clear on those individual stages. You need to have that clarity so that you can go off and create a solid foundation for your own journey. And you need to focus on where you are in your journey right now. So while I've covered all the campaigns that you need to have in place, you need to focus on, are you in that beginning stage where you need to set those foundations up? Are you sort of more intermediate, or you like advanced and ready to go with your progressive profiling? But understand where your individual audience members are. What does their awareness journey look like? What do you need to sort of add to them in order to be able to give value to them in the best way possible so that you can increase those conversion rates? And finally, make sure that you have like a flywheel, a cyclic process, rather than having just a bunch of funnels all over the place that is a bit more of a mess. Okay, guys, so I'm ready for questions, all the questions, but I have created an awareness worksheet for you. So if you want to figure out where your audience members are and what awareness means at each one of those stages, you can go down there. It's free. And if you don't want my emails, just unsubscribe afterwards. That's cool too. But yeah, we're pretty much done. I hope everybody doesn't have sore hands from writing notes.
Wow. Okay. Wow. This was incredible. So we've got questions. I will start off with hopefully an easy one, and we will get into a little bit more juicy ones later on. But
Good.
Krishna is asking, and you touched on it after the question was, but I think it's still a great reminder. What's the difference between a short-term nurture campaign and kind of the onboarding welcome campaign?
I love how she's like, sorry, I'm jumping ahead, I know. So the onboarding is literally only for people who have purchased from you. And the short-term nurture is for people who signed up for a lead magnet. So it's literally just one is for your leads and one is for your customers. But their route is exactly the same. They're both nurture campaigns. So good question, because they are actually pretty similar, just one's for leads and one's for customers.
That's clear. Thank you.
Cool.
Another question, it's kind of tactical in a way. Personally, if I get more than one email a week from an online retailer, I get really annoyed. I think it's Melissa saying this. Does frequency of emails depend a little on what the product or your service you're offering is?
Yeah, I mean, it also depends on that, and it also depends on whether or not you're actually sending valuable information out. So if you're, for instance, New Zealand Natural Clothing, he sends out at least one email a week. His audience love it. They love receiving because they care about that stuff, and he's sending information that they really care about. So as long as you're providing information that your audience cares about receiving, frequency doesn't matter as much. But if you're just going to send sales related stuff, like 100% people are going to get annoyed. So I often see that, like, I get so many annoying emails from retailers where I'm like, I don't need a daily email from you because you're just selling me stuff every day. But if they were sending me stuff that was actually helping me, so for instance, sports companies that send me stuff about running, like, show me how to improve my running. Don't just send me stuff about trainers, right? So it depends on how do you add value to that audience member? What do they care about, right? That's what your frequency should be tied into.
Definitely, very true. So now a big question from Claire. She's asking, how is this managed by a small business without a team to lean on for time to create it, to start creating this?
Okay, this is a big question. This is a big question. So it's a big problem and it's a big challenge that we see. It's kind of the reason we exist. Effectively, it's why people come to us for their product for products and services, because we do it for them. But there is no reason that you have to go to a consultant to do this kind of stuff. All you have to do is you have to break off the individual pieces and go, this month, we're going to create a welcome campaign. This month, we're going to focus on creating a new lead magnet. This month, we're going to do this. And you just break off all the individual little bits. I'm just going to plug my own stuff here, Lenka. I'm just going to go for it. We actually have an academy that helps the small businesses with this kind of stuff. It's super cheap. It's like £37 a month. And every month we do a challenge to help you with this, to basically go, okay, this month we're going to teach you how to do newsletters. That's our thing in our challenge this month. You know, we're going to create super awesome newsletters and get the strategy behind it. Next month, we're doing welcome campaigns. The month after that, we're doing behavioral content plans, you know, so we're there to give you the accountability so that you can get it done. So we have created an academy for it, but it's a really hard thing to do because you've got all the other stuff to do. You've got your job to do as well, right? So it can be really tough. Yeah.
I would definitely recommend anyone who wants to step up their marketing, automation, email marketing game to check out Canda's Academy. It's great to have all the hands-on bite-sized advice to really take it one step at a time. It can feel really overwhelming to try to do all of this. Like, even though you have beautiful flow charts, and it feels like quite straightforward when you start thinking about, okay, I need this and this and this. But then when you see that this is such a huge project and I need all of this, be able to break it down into, if I start with this and I add this and then I add that, it actually gets a lot more manageable.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've gone through and we've created like templates for everything to try and make it as easy as possible as well. So there's email templates and there's blueprints to do things and that kind of stuff. But it's a good question because it's a really tough thing to do. It, you know, you just have to, how do you eat the whole elephant? Little bites at a time.
Very true. This is an interesting question about kind of sales and nurture and email and social media. From Melissa, she says that she's finding that 80% of her customers that she picked up last spring or summer via Twitter, that she's being able to virtue through Twitter.
I think it's supposed to be nurture. I think
Nurture
that's not
Twitter.
correct.
That she have sent any emails. She haven't sent any emails apart from the ones related to the order. So she's not sure if to focus on email to getting new customers. Obviously, again, talking about the time needed involved in this if you're a solo business owner.
I mean, I would definitely reach out to those people and say, I'm thinking of doing like a newsletter, for instance. I'm thinking of doing a newsletter. Would you be interested in receiving that? And allowing people to unsubscribe if they don't want that, right? What you will find is that you will get your highest ROI from email, but all of your other social media channels have a really important part to play in getting people into emails and then also engaging them after that point in the process as well. So I'd reach out to them and see if they'd be happy to receive, something that's valuable to them, like a fantastic newsletter about reading comprehension in kids or something related to children's books and that kind of stuff, So, and then creating maybe every 2 weeks a really lovely newsletter that talks about what's going on in the world of literacy at the moment and, that kind of stuff. I think your audience would probably find that really valuable for their kids. And I think they'd be well up for that. Yeah.
Amazing. Another thing to play into your game, there's someone asking, how would you recommend applying this when you sell a membership of products?
Yeah. Yeah, so memberships are fantastic because they generally solve a wide variety of problems. So what I'd be looking at is what are all those different challenges? Where are people in their awareness journey leading up to those individual challenges? So you might have lots of different awareness journeys for the different things. And then I would literally, for each of those problems that is solved for by your membership, I would showcase how that's the fact. So I'd value add, have lead magnets for those individually, have nurture series for those individually, and just pick off the different problems and focus on them. But memberships are so great because there's so much content inside them. So you can kind of really showcase tons of different stuff. So it's fantastic for them. I mean, our list is there for our membership site as well. So you can have a lot of fun with marketing a membership site, 100%.
Yeah. Interesting question, similar in the theme of memberships, but this one is asking, do you have any recommendations for managing two different customer audiences that will have very different ideas of value? Does it have to be two cycles, when one you're selling potentially products and one you're selling more of the advice membership for creators?
Yeah, so I'm presuming you have your ceramic stuff that goes to the consumers, and then you have the membership stuff that's just for the makers, right? So I'm assuming it is two very specific target audiences. If that is the case, yes, I would manage them differently because they are they're totally unique. One is B2C and one is B2B. So you might have totally different information. You might have information crossovers where you want to, for instance, give people information, those who love ceramics maybe want to come on a workshop and become a maker. So you might have some crossovers, but you might find that you have like a newsletter that goes to one area and a content plan for one area. You might have to manage them very differently. I'd suggest thinking about what the awareness journey is for them, going through those steps, getting really clear on that awareness journey, and then seeing where is the overlap. If there is any. If there is no overlap, then it's separate audiences with the occasional crossover. But if you can see that the awareness stages are very similar, then you're totally fine to have them smoosh together effectively.
Amazing. I have a question that's really more of me geeking out a little bit more about the psychology and neuroscience behind this thinking. Because you said, when we're going through the awareness stages, when we're getting aware that there is a challenge, and in lots of the marketing, you will hear the advice, what is the pain you're solving? What is the problem you're solving? But my question is more about the language that you use. Is there a difference between using kind of negative and kind of really digging into the pain language versus the result of conversions when you're looking then more on the positive kind of, we will help you with this and we will solve this, and the more positive language of kind of dealing with the awareness of a pain, of a problem.
Yeah, there is a bit of a difference. It depends. Most people will buy for pleasure, not for pain, and then will buy to get a pleasure and to get away from a pain. So if you are, if you're pushing too heavily on the pains and you're making it really like very negative, you'll more than likely turn your audience off. So the basis behind that is something that we have called mirror neurons. And basically, we understand the world around us through empathy by putting ourselves in that position. So when you're telling somebody a story or you're pushing on something, you are literally making them feel a very negative emotion. And generally, people will shy away from that if you push too hard in it. You have to talk about the problem and you have to talk about the pain. But generally, you want to talk about what they stand to gain from solving that, not kind of pushing on how crap it is, because what you're actually doing is you're making the brain feel bad. So you're making that person have a negative emotional response, and we're very geared to wanting to move away from that kind of stuff evolutionarily, and we're very geared to moving towards things that will give us a serotonin or a dopamine hit. So if you can make people feel better and make them feel like they can do it and it's possible and they can solve it, and yes, it's totally shit right now, but it can be better, you're definitely better off doing it that way. So show them what they can gain rather than how much pain they're in, but talk about the pain. So just don't, make everything about the pain. There's got to be some positive in there. Yeah.
That's super helpful. I think that's all the questions that we've got from the audience, which is so interesting. And we're kind of over the hour of a time, so I know that someone has to go now. I could talk with you, Kinda, for hours and hours about this and geek out more about the psychology and neuroscience behind all of this. But that's been such a valuable session for everyone. I will just bring the slide back for those of you who were asking about the URL. So you can go ahead to this URL, that's automationninjas.com/awareness worksheet. We will copy the link and we will add it to the description and to the follow-up conversations and to the resource page. And we will be sharing the slides so you can really zoom in onto all of those workflows. So you can really start breaking that down. And we will make sure to share information about Kenda's upcoming webinars, because you're running regular talks, which I attended one last week, which was so perfect. And can people still get access to those that you've run in the past? I think you run about lead magnets, and the one was about electrifying newsletters.
Yes. Yeah. If you DM me or send me a message, I can give you access to those. Not a problem. Yeah.
I would highly recommend to anyone who has a newsletter and thinking about a refresh of a newsletter, who is thinking about launching a newsletter, to definitely watch out the electrifying newsletter webinar that Kenda has run, because it was so helpful for me. And I think I know bits and pieces about email marketing, but that session I have so many notes. I've been so brainstorming it, and I can feel so much more confident about my new campaigns just because of that. So thank you so much.
It's such a pleasure.
Okay, thank you everyone for watching. If you have any further questions, then let us know in the comments. We will make sure that Kenda will have a look at them. If you're watching a replay, leave your comments in the description below the video, and we will make sure that Kenda has a look at them and then answers them as well. So thank you everyone. Have a lovely International Women's Day and see you soon. Bye.
Bye.